Hi, it's Tansel here, and today I want to talk about speed reading because not a lot of people know about how to speed read. In fact, people think speed reading is just skipping and skimming words and just looking at things really fast and getting the gist of things. Well, I want to sort of delve deeper into what speed reading is and explain to you that it's much more than that, and that you can actually improve your retention and recall by using speed reading techniques. So I think it's important to understand how it's all sort of made up together in terms of the techniques and strategies and systems. So hopefully after this video you'll understand how it all works and you can start applying some of the techniques yourself. So how do we start to learn how to read first? So the first thing that we do is we sound out the letters, don't we? So when we're reading, as children, we learn the letters A, B, C, D, or whichever language that you're learning in. And when we start reading the words, we're sounding out the words. Now, the problem with that is that we never move up from there. So we stay at that very basic level, and when we're reading as adults, we're still reading word by word. Right? Now, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? Word by word, there's no issue reading word by word. But here's the problem. As soon as you start reading word by word, right, you get to the sixth or seventh word, or maybe even further on, and you might find that the image in your head starts to make sense. So for example, I might say, the cat jumped over the bridge, right? As soon as I said bridge, then that would have formed some sort of a sentence or some sort of an image in your head, right? Now that's great. Now for something more complex and technical, right, that's going to be a bit of a problem because we're going to have to read multiple sentences to be able to form a context around what we're reading. So instead of trying to understand word by word, right, we have to understand context by context. And really the only way to do that is through speed reading. Now, it's not to say that you'll see the context a lot quicker. You will. In fact, speed reading isn't really got to do with speed. It's actually got to do with how you encode these words. Because here's the thing. Words don't actually mean anything, right, for a few moments. And it could be split seconds and so forth. But if you see an image, right, if I show you a picture of a cow, you'll know what it is, right? You'll get instant recognition in your brain. But if I show you a whole bunch of sentences and words, you have to read them. You have to go through and process them and try and encode them in your brain to then get some sort of an image, right? So it takes a bit longer to try and encode images than to actually see the image. And this is what we have to do. We have to try and encode as we're reading. So it's just like watching a movie, right? So if we're watching a movie, we don't try and memorize every single word in the dialogue, do we? We just watch it because it's all visual, right? YouTube, videos, Facebook, it's all sort of visual format. Therefore, it's easier to consume. You look at books. I mean, I was hopeless at reading books because I just had to do so much encoding. But the encoding that I did was like everyone else. Just read word by word and by rote learning, over and over again. And I'd get a headache, then I have to go back and reread. Right? And the reason why we go back and reread is because the images aren't formed in our head yet. So we have to go ahead and redo that. So it's important to form this encoding in our brain. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we encode these words into images? And I want to show you some strategies just so you can practice. It's something that does take a while. So don't expect instant results or your memory is going to improve and you're suddenly going to comprehend everything that you read. You might increase your comprehension a little bit by doing these techniques, but it's just constant practice. It's like going to the gym, right? Or exercising. You can't just go once and say, oh yeah, I'm fit as everyone now. Just because you're feeling good, you're probably still the same, or if not a little bit better mentally. But if you keep going over and over again for a consistent period, you're definitely going to get much better and you'll notice the difference physically. So it's the same thing mentally and reading as well. You just have to put in a consistent effort and practice. So I want to give you some little tricks and tips to get the practice going as well, because I always say to all my coaching clients that I can give you the best knowledge in the world, but if you don't practice it, it's pointless, it's useless. right? So you just have to keep practicing these techniques, but have different forms of practice, because if you just have one form of practice, you might get bored of that, right? So I want to show you some of these things. And the first technique I want to show you is to read with your finger. That's right, the finger. Now you're probably thinking, well, why should I read with my finger? Some people at school, I know I was told that it's not good to read with your finger, right? That it's you'd be looked at as dumb to read with your finger. It's actually not the case, believe it or not. If you start reading with your finger, you're actually focusing on those words, and you're focusing on that context. And what you're doing is you're actually trying to eliminate backskipping. And what backskipping means is that going back and rereading, right? If you keep doing that, that's going to break up all your reading, isn't it? So for example, if you're watching a movie and you're watching it with a friend or family or whoever, and they say, look, Tansel, can we rewind it back 30 seconds? I missed that part. Okay. 30 seconds later, they say, oh, can we rewind it back another 5 seconds? And then another 10 seconds, they say, oh, can we rewind it back? So every few seconds, every 10 or so, 30 seconds, the movie gets rewinded. Guess how long that movie is going to take? It's going to be way longer than what you originally intended to watch it in one go. So it's the same thing with reading. We want to eliminate those backskipping, and we want to be able to get through it in nice, easy fashion and in a nice, smooth sort of way. So the only way to really do that is read with your finger. Now it's just as simple as just going like this, putting your finger underneath the words and looking at them. Now what that does is that when you pick up a book, your eyes go everywhere like this. You don't notice it, but if you try and draw a circle with your eyes without a guide, it'll go like that. But as soon as you start drawing a circle with your finger, right, it goes perfect circle. So circle with my eyes, you probably follow it. It's not that perfect. And then circle with this. Right, you can try it with anyone. Get them in front of you, get them to do a circle with their eyes, and then get them a finger and do a circle and see the difference. Right, so that's what happens when you're reading. Without the guide, your finger as a guide, or you can use a pen, your eyes go everywhere, and it's easier to backskip. And it's easier to lose context as well. And now you're probably thinking, well, hang on, I already do this, or, I've tried this, it doesn't work. Well, I've been to a lot of courses and run a lot of courses myself. And it's funny that not a lot of people talk about, what doesn't work with the guide, with using the finger. So I want to also mention that as well, is that if you go too fast, right? If you read too fast underneath the words, what's going to happen is your guide is here, but your brain is here up to reading, right? It's a bit earlier. And what's going to happen is you're going to be trying to play catch up with your finger, with a guide. So you're not going to remember anything really if you're just playing catch up. If you're going too slow, right? What actually happens then is that your brain's here. Now, your guide, because it's so slow, your brain is here. It's going to, almost be the opposite of trying to catch up, right? So the best thing to do is that use your finger, but adjust the speed as you go along. Go for a few pages, go for 10 pages, however many you need, just to practice this and see if you can get a smooth flow. Now, if you can get that point where you get a nice smooth flow, then what essentially happens is that you start to forget about your finger, right? The finger almost disappears, and then you start seeing the content. And that's the beauty of the speed reading, is it's all about retention of the content. And because you're viewing the content, you're reading it that way, your finger's going to go faster. And you're actually going to read a lot faster as well, with better comprehension. Now, it's really difficult to try and grasp in the initial stages, especially if you haven't done speed reading or heard of it before. But, try and get a book or so, or it's a bit difficult to do it on your phone or tablet because you might move over the page, but try and get a hard copy of something or newspaper and see if you can use your finger and try and find that balance of, I'm not going too fast, not too slow. So how will you know? Well, you just know because you're not seeing words to the front and center, to the back, sorry, and you're not sort of seeing a small part as well. So it's just about you're seeing everything in the vicinity of your finger. So try that. If you have any questions, please, write in the comments or shoot me an email or go to my website. I'm always happy to help you out with speed reading. I've got more of these videos coming up, especially with all the other techniques for speed reading, but I just thought I'll get the initial one out there so you could start the practice of speed reading, right? Other exercise you can do is you just grab a book and start, practicing, not just retaining the content, but just practice the speed of your finger and try and get that right. Now, what you'll notice is that because you're doing the exercise, you're not really focused on reading. You'll get to that stage where your finger's comfortable, but because you've done that, you would have noticed that you would have actually understood a lot more as well from what you've read. So there's a challenge for you. See if you can use your finger and understand a lot more. So give that a go. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm putting up more of these videos. So if you want to see more on not just speed reading, but memory techniques and everything got to do with the brain and personal development, hacks and tricks and tips and everything that I've got for you, please subscribe to my YouTube channels and videos, like them, because it'll help me, but also help you and everyone else out there as well. And hoping to get more of these out there. So please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.